Hey everybody! Well, today I thought we could revisit this prop replica from Star Trek The Next Generation that I did a video on 3 years ago. I can't believe it's been 3 years. So I kind of discussed this whole thing, and I'll probably end up rehashing some of that information from that video on here. But the reason I wanted to come back to this is because I just recently acquired this, and this is really cool. And so I wanted to kind of compare this piece with this piece. So this came from Star Trek The Next Generation. So it was a two-part episode. In season 2, Data and Geordi are playing Sherlock Holmes in the holodeck, and Geordi gets mad at Data because he keeps solving the mysteries too soon, since he's got all the all the stories downloaded in his positronic brain, and so he tells the computer to create an opponent that can beat Data. Well, by doing that, the computer makes Moriarty the arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes. It makes him so smart that he knows that he's a hologram. He knows that he is living on some kind of a vessel, and he kind of starts to understand what's going on. It almost turns him into a life form. And so he wants to come off the holodeck and live in the real world, but they can't do that because as soon as he walks off the holodeck, he fades away. So by the end of that episode, they just kind of didn't really resolve it. They just kind of put him back in the computer, and I think he reluctantly agreed to go back in there, and then that was it. And so it took him 4 seasons to come back to that story by season 6, and I think there was some kind of an issue going on with the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle estate, and that's why it took him so long to get back to that story. But by that time, they came back to season 6, and that episode is called Ship in a Bottle, and that is one of my favorite episodes, and that's where this thing appears. So at the beginning of Ship in a Bottle, Data and Geordi are playing Sherlock Holmes again, and they realize that there's a mistake in the program, because when Data throws these books of matches, he's supposed to catch it in his left hand, but it was in his right hand. So they send Barclay in to figure out what the problem is. So Barclay comes down to investigate what's going on with the holodeck, and then when he does, he accidentally reactivates Moriarty, and then that's when we also find out that Moriarty was aware of being stuck in the computer for 4 years. He was aware of the passage of time. Interestingly, there's a blooper that occurs in this scene. Barclay will pull this isolinear chip right here, that little blue one right there. He'll pull that out of there, right here, and when he does, Moriarty disappears, but then in the next scene, there is the chip. It's back in the same spot. And that is because there was a deleted scene that was just taken out. It was only a few seconds long, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's that scene.
That was most unpleasant.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me try again.
Remember, 221B, Baker Street.
Now he put that back in there, and then he pulls out another one that was next to it, and then he disappears. So that's why that was a blooper. They cut that part, and just the continuity of it was messed up, and nobody caught it. So Picard, Data, and Barclay come down to the holodeck and try to reason with Moriarty about the fact that they apologize that he's been stuck in there for 4 years and that he's been aware of the passage of time. But now Moriarty wants to come out into the real world like he did in part 1, but they try to explain to him that he can't do that. So Picard demonstrates that if he walks off the holodeck, he's going to disappear because there's no holo emitters or anything to keep him real. So when he throws this book out, you can see it disappears. But Moriarty insists that because he is conscious and he has will, that he can walk off the holodeck. And sure enough, he does. Much to the surprise of everybody right there. So Moriarty is escorted around the ship, and he thinks he's on a sea-bearing ship, you know, the kind like that's in the ocean or whatever. And this is when he realizes that the ship he's on is actually a starship because he's out in space. Later on, Moriarty wants to request of Picard that he allow the Countess Regina Bartholomew, his girlfriend, to also be able to come out into the real world. But Picard tries to explain to him that they don't even know how Moriarty was able to walk off the holodeck, much less bring another being out of there. And then to add to the tension of time, we have 2 planets that they were sent to investigate that are about ready to crash into each other. Later on, they find out that the computer command codes aren't working anymore, and they're trying to figure out why, and then they realize that Moriarty had rerouted the control, so now he has control of the ship. So just like in part 1, he finds a way to kind of hold the crew hostage to get his wishes. So at this point, they decide they're going to try to use the transporters in order to transport the Countess right there, who is excellently played by Stephanie Beacham. And also, Daniel Davis does a fantastic job of playing Moriarty. I would say that Stephanie Beacham and Daniel Davis really give this episode just a special little oomph, if you will, because their acting is just so well done on this. So now they try to experiment with a chair using the pattern enhancers to see if they can beam an object from the holodeck into the real world, but unfortunately, it doesn't work. After the experiment, Data finds out that there's no computer log about the transportation that they just did, so he starts to realize that there's some things wrong. This part of the episode is really cool because they start to realize what actually happened. Data starts to figure out what's going on. So here he realizes that Geordi is operating the pad with his left hand, but Geordi is right-handed, so when he throws this device, he catches it in his left hand. So now they realize that they are still on the holodeck. They never left. So that's how Moriarty was able to make it look like he walked off the holodeck, is because they all never left the holodeck. So Data, Picard, and Barclay never left the holodeck. So the whole thing is a simulation. So it's a holodeck on a holodeck, which is just insane. So because Picard accidentally gave his personal command code, Moriarty now has that, so he can hold the real Enterprise hostage as well. So Picard talks to the Countess and tells her that they managed to find a way to use the transporter to transport a holographic object, such as herself and Moriarty, into the real world. So with the information that Picard provides, Moriarty tells the real Riker that this is the way that they can get transported off of there by uncoupling the Heisenberg compensators. And so here we see that it works, or at least it seems to work. And here they are in the real world, once and for all. Later on, Moriarty negotiates a deal that he gets a shuttlecraft so that he and the Countess can go off on their own. So they allow him to do that because he's not going to relinquish the computer controls until he gets what he wants. And off they go in a shuttlecraft 500 years into the future to live the life of freedom without being holograms on a holodeck. So this part of the episode is really cool. So we find out that once Moriarty relinquishes the controls, that the world that Moriarty thought he got beamed into, he thought it was the real world, was actually not. It was another hologram that Picard created right there. So he walks off this holodeck, and now they're on the holodeck that Moriarty created, which is insane. So it was a holodeck on a holodeck on a holodeck. It is the most clever writing and amazing story. So right here, they are now finally on the real Enterprise. So now as we see these three walk off the real holodeck into the real Enterprise, this is where Barclay accesses that panel, and that's where that cube is. This is where that prop comes into play. That's it right there. So Moriarty and the Countess, they're actually existing in that cube. That's where that program is. And here is where Barclay explains how this works.
As far as Moriarty and the Countess know, they're halfway to Melis 2 by now.
And here's the enhancement module.
This enhancement module contains enough active memory to provide them with experiences for a lifetime.
They will live their lives and never know any difference.
Now, I love this line from Picard. It shows you how clever the writers were. He talks about, it's kind of an in-joke, so I'll let you see what he's talking about here.
But who knows? Our reality may be very much like theirs, and all this might just be an elaborate simulation running inside a little device sitting on someone's table.
And that is so cool.
Well,
and I love how Barclay is kind of looking around, kind of wondering about it. So it's funny because it's true. We are watching this simulation. It's a TV show, and they're on a fake set, and these are actors, and we are watching it on a device on our desk, meaning our television set. So that is the most hilarious thing. When I first saw this episode, when it first aired on TV, I thought that was the most fantastic thing. And I absolutely love this ending where Barclay just wants to make sure that he's not still on a simulation.
Computer and program.
That's fantastic. That is so cool. So looking back at this piece now, I had this commission built quite a few years ago by a gentleman who actually made props for Star Trek The Next Generation, and I think he also worked on Deep Space Nine and Voyager as well, and he also was a model builder. He built some of the special effects models that were used during the filming of the show, and I think he briefly also worked at Industrial Light and Magic. So this is a fully functional one, just like you saw in the show. So let me turn these lights down real quick so we can kind of get the effect. And now I showed this in the other video as well. So the cube just fits in there. There's actually a little switch. You can see it right in here. And if you look at the episode, you can see there's a little button in there as well, and you can see where the LEDs are. Well, you can't see where the LEDs are on the screen used one, but on this one you can. So we'll put this in here just like the original. And there you can see it lights up just like the original prop. Let me turn this completely down. Okay, yeah, that's much better. All right, so now we can really kind of see how this looks. Now this was an incredible piece to get because the gentleman who made this, and I didn't mention his name in the first video because I didn't know if I had the permission to really say who he was, and I still don't know, so I'll continue to leave him anonymous for now. Plus, he unfortunately had some health issues, and he no longer does this kind of work anymore. But I was very, very fortunate to get this. I approached him about making this, and he was completely all for it. And he ended up making two because somehow word got out to another guy that he was making one of these for me, and so he made two of these. And then he ended up making three of these cubes, and he sold the extra cube to somebody else. And the cube itself is a work of art. I mean, this thing is, see if I can get this out of here. Okay, the cube itself, I mean, you can see here, let me see if I can turn the light back up. All right, I'll see all the, see all this detail that's on here? So these circuits, the circuitry, I should say, is laser etched in here. On the original prop, they were just silk screened, and he took the time to laser etch both sides of the acrylic. So you got the thicker clear on the top and bottom, and then you also got this orangish color in the middle. And then each one of these middle pieces, they're all cut the same with all these little same ridges, but just by turning them from one side to the other or completely flipping them over, it gives you all these different patterns. So even though they're all the same, it looks like they're all random. And then it's all put together. You can see the main bolt that runs through the center, and there's some spacers in there. That's what gives it the even look. And then there's this very thin acrylic rod on each corner to hold it all together, and that's exactly how the original prop was made. I mean, we studied that thing. We were corresponding to each other and trying to guess at the dimensions and stuff, and so we came upon the fact that we are pretty sure that this was 3 inches square, because the prop builders are going to try to keep it, as even as they can, like as easy as they can, by just keeping it at 3 inches. So let me put it back in here again. And I don't know, I'm still shocked at the fact, let me turn this other light down. I'm still shocked at the fact that he was able to pull this off. I mean, it's just not something that is just easily made. So the box, or the enhancement module, is made out of acrylic. I think the original one was vacuum formed, and there was a gentleman that I know that was making some of these, and I think he made about 10 of them, and he also made this thing out of vacuum forming. And I think he sold all of those, and I don't think he's planning on making any more. But you can see here how all of this looks. Now on the front here, if I can get the, let me pull it back a little bit. See the lights on the front? So those, now in the episode, these are flickering really quick, but the way we have them here is they're kind of alternating. And that was because the gentleman who was going to do the lighting for this kind of bailed out on the project, and so thankfully I knew somebody else that could do the lighting for it, and he came through and made this circuit for us. And originally I only had, I think, 4 LEDs set up for this, and thankfully the gentleman who made this added a whole bunch more so that it would light the cube, because it would not have been light enough. But this is a spot-on replica to the whole thing. So let me show you the inside. That's one thing I didn't show you on the other video. Alright, so the door on the back has 2 hex screws to hold this in, and then this lid just pops off, which I've already done here. And he added this piece of acrylic on the front that kind of goes underneath at the top, and that's how that fits in there. It's really nice. Now here is the inside. Now here, if I can get the light on here, you can see the LEDs. All those LEDs are what make the little pocket where the cube goes in. That's what makes it all light up. You can see it's a 9-volt battery that powers it. That down there is the LEDs for the front. There's a lot of wiring in there. It's crazy wiring. And there's some more stuff going on there. Now if you look down there in the corner, let me see, I don't know if you can see it. Do I have it? Oh, that's the lighting bar right there that makes those chasing lights. That's really cool. But down in there, I don't know if you can see in the corner, but there's actually acrylic rod that he used to square off the walls and the top. So, you know, as I mentioned, the original prop was vacuum formed, but this is made out of acrylic. You can kind of see the acrylic bar right there. So that's what he used to square off the walls. And this is a stronger material rather than the vacuum form stuff. So it's really pretty cool the way he made this thing. Now let me, let's see if we can see inside. I don't know if you can see all the way in there, but it's hollow. It's hollow all the way back there. But you can kind of see some of the filler that's in the corner right there. The Bondo or whatever that he used to make all that. You can see it on that side as well. I mean, this is a very nicely crafted piece. It's pretty astonishing that he was able to pull this off, but that's what it looks like on the inside. Okay, so now let's look at this one, because this was the main reason I wanted to make this video. I just kind of got carried away with showing the other one. So this is the cube that I found. Now this is the one I found on Etsy. I found this on Etsy, which is really cool because I was surprised to find one of these because they're not the easiest thing to find. They're kind of rare props. But here you can see this cube has the same kind of laser etched circuitry pattern. It's a little bit different looking, and also I would say it comes in further from the edge, but it looks very good. Here's the bottom, and near as I can tell, it looks like both sides of the acrylic pieces are laser etched, just like the one I showed earlier. It looks like it's constructed the same way. You got the bolt that runs through the center, the spacers, and then the acrylic rod on the corner right here that kind of holds the whole thing together. Now this one is slightly smaller. Here, I'll bring in the other one real quick. So here's the other one. You can really see the size difference on these. I'm not sure why the creator for this one decided to go smaller. It's a little shorter, as you can see here. And it's definitely not as wide. If I put them side by side, you can kind of see. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch shorter on the sides. I mean, it's not a real big deal, but it's just interesting that he didn't make it the actual size, which is kind of interesting, but it still looks really good. Oddly enough, this one feels a little bit heavier than the other one, even though it's smaller. Maybe the stock of acrylic is thicker or something, or heavier, I'm not really sure. So instead of the enhancement module, this one comes with this really cool base. And I don't know, I just kind of found this intriguing. So here you can see how that looks. So there's this circuitry pattern on the inside right there, and it looks very similar to the circuitry pattern on the cube. Looks very cool. Now the whole thing is made of wood except for one side of it. So this is wood on this side, and it's wood over here and here, and then on the bottom it is too. And if I can get the light on it right, you can see the dovetail construction for this. This part here is acrylic. It looks like this is an acrylic sheet, or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's wood too, I don't really know. But I love this detail right here. It's like the buttons that we always saw on the next generation control panels. It's got that nice shiny, yeah, right there. It's got a shiny kind of finish to it, and the wording. Another thing that's really cool about this is it comes with these isolinear chips. You can pull these out. So it has an isolinear chip that slides in here. So this is acrylic, and these are laser etched as well. It's laser etched on both sides. Now these are a little smaller than the standard isolinear chip too. So here I have this one for comparison. So this is about the size that it should be. You can kind of see the difference. I have a whole bunch of these isolinear chips. Some of them have this mirror finish and some of them are etched like this. But it's a little shorter and not as wide. But you know, I'm fine with that. That's cool. So you get two of these and they insert into these slots just like that. Here's the other one. Looks exactly the same, and the way it slides in there, you can kind of see how it fits inside right there, and it doesn't interfere with the cube sitting on there. So this is USB powered. You're going to have to provide your own power block. It's got a nice long cord, which I like, and it also has this nice little control panel, which I'll show you all the lighting effects on there, because that little dish on the inside, that's the whole lighting panel on here. So this fits in there. Now this cube has these little rubber feet on here, and it fits right in here, just like that. So let me plug this in, and we'll check out some of the cool lighting effects. So here's the control panel for the lights. You got a mode, and what is that one? Speed, bright in the middle, and then color. So you can have different modes where it has different kind of light fluctuations, and then the middle one adjusts the speed and the brightness, and then you can change colors with the bottom one. So let's play around with this. Okay, so let's try these buttons here. We'll start with the middle one, which is speed. See if we can turn that on. Okay, so you can control the speed of how fast it blinks. So right there it's set on green. You can mess with the color, and now it looks like it's solid green, solid red, solid blue, solid, it looks orange, but it's actually green on the base. That's actually purple on the base. You can kind of see it down there, but it makes the whole thing look red. It's because of the yellowish orange color of the cube. That's blue, but it makes it look green. That's white, and then that is a green. That's very cool. Okay, now let's do the speed again. And then there's mode. Let me see, here's mode. Now you got this blinking thing going on here. And then you can go to a single color. Now you can make this flash quicker by hitting, ooh, look at that. That's neat. It's almost like a strobe effect. Let me see what, and then you can go to red, blue. It's kind of the same color as we saw earlier. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's interesting how you can see the light coming on these little acrylic rods because they work like fiber optics. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's neat. Wonder if we can slow that down a little. Oh, okay. Oh, that looks pretty cool. And you can go even slower right there. Oh, I like that. That's a nice calming. You can go even slower. So you can adjust whatever pattern you're on. You can adjust it. I like that. That looks really cool. Let me see what the next mode is. Oh, this one's even slower. Looks like. I hit speed and now it's even a slower transition. So you can get a nice calming effect, or you can make it look like a disco light. That's neat. So there's all kinds of different choices. Ooh, that's cool. Look at that. It has a pulsating effect. Oh, I like that. That's a lot. That's really cool. Let me see what this is. That's cool. Look how these light up blue. It's so neat. It has a lot of really cool effects on here, so you can mess around with this for quite a while. Whatever mood you're in, you can have your Holo cube lighting up that way. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, I really like it. And I love how the isolinear chips light up too. Yeah, that's cool. Wow, that's awesome. So I'm very pleased with this piece. I think it looks really cool. I mean, granted, this is a little smaller, and it's got a kind of a different thing with this base going on, but I like it. So I found this on Etsy, and the seller was Dr. Sci-Fi. I'll put the words down here at the bottom of the screen so you can see how he spells it. And they're made specifically by him. He shipped it pretty quick. So I don't know if, he might get back ordered once this video goes live. He may get some more orders for it. I'm not sponsoring him, and he's not sponsoring me or anything like that. But this is really cool. It just fits in there. Look how bright that is. I think I'm going to have this sitting on my desk because I like just this nice little calming effect that it has. It looks really cool. You can play around with these isolinear chips if you want to. That's always fun. So it's very cool. So if you want to get this whole setup, both the cube and the base, it's $160. If you want just the cube, it's $100 just for the cube. And if you want just the base, that's $55. So, I may as well just get the whole thing if you're going to have something like this, because you want it to light up. And the base is made specifically for that. But very cool. I really like it. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to get one of these, and the price, depending on when you're watching this video. I'm making this video in June of 2023, so I don't know if the prices are always going to stay at that price. I'm sure they won't, as costs of stuff go up, of course. But as for now, that's the cost of this thing. But it's very cool. If you're a fan of this prop and you've always wanted one, well, there you go. All right. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'd very much appreciate it. And until the next time, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.